Hello everyone and welcome to another update on the market. For today, I decided to cover British pound versus US dollar. I will speak about the gold market, crude oil, Bitcoin versus US dollar, and dollar index. I will start with the British pound versus US dollar first. What we have here is the hourly time frame of the British pound versus US dollar, and we can see that market is actually trading into the very important pivot level. Actually, this is a cluster of the lows from the background, which may act like resistance to this in this area. That is the zone around 1.2700 mark, 1.2710 mark, and this will be the crucial cluster to observe. Because we have this supply trend line, market is just around that supply trend line, so anything meaningful to the upside, I would like to see the breakout of this supply trend line and this cluster and then hold above, because this would be then a good sign for the further higher prices towards the 1.2760, 1.2770, or even full retest of the high around 1.2826. The downside scenario, if we can have the rejection of this area, then if we can also break the most recent rising trend line, so something like this, and then if the market have a weak rally, there is a potential for the further downside movement towards the 1.2613, or even lower towards the 1.2550 or 500 mark. So we will see how this will play out, but those are the two scenarios that I'm observing at this stage, and this is actually on a very important pivot zone. Gold market, so we had a sell-off yesterday. Market traded into the 2030 mark. In the background, as alerted in my previous updates, we had a breakout of this rising trend line, and we can see that our actual objective from the previous day, we met that objective. So we can see here that market traded into the 161.8, actually exactly stopped at 2030 and rejected back to this 2049 mark. So here the supply is still in control. We have the recent lows that may act like resistance around 2056. Supply trend line from here is also serving like potential resistance. So far we have the rally, but there is a chance for the further downside continuation. And as I said, the supply is in control, so the downside scenario is most likely to retest potentially 2030, or even to go lower towards the 2015 or 2000 mark. Anything meaningful to the upside, I would like to see the breakout of this 2060, eventually break out the supply trend line and then hold above. It will be a good sign for the upside scenario to develop, and the upside objective in that case will be around 2078 and 2089. Now, watching the crude oil, we had this big rejection yesterday, more like a tail from 69.20 mark, and we can see that market is now near the very important pivot level. So we have lots of reactions in the background from this zone. We have the previous swing high, we have the rally high, we have the swing low at this point. So this is a quite important cluster where the crude oil is trading right now. So scenario here will be, this will be more like a wedging and more like extension of this rally from yesterday. Then there is a potential for the sell-off and rotation back to, let's say, 72 mark, or even 71.35 mark to test the single prints from previous day. So basically we had this rejection, and then this can all be like extension of this rally from yesterday, and this may result this sell-off to happen in the next period, at least towards a single, let's say 72 or 71.50. That's a one scenario. Secondary scenario, if the market can just trade higher and hold above, then this will be a sign for the higher prices and potential retest of 75.50 or 76 mark. Now, speaking of the Bitcoin versus US dollar, I alerted and I warned about potential fake breakout, and this is exactly one of the scenarios that we spoke about in previous updates. Was exactly like a fake breakout of this more like a symmetrical triangle, more like a contraction that we had. And basically, majority of the traders watch the same story, and that's the key thing. So they're the guys who use this and actually sold against majority and sold against the crowd, and this resulted this big sell-off all the way to 40,650 mark. But what we can see here is that market rejected from this support cluster from the other sides, and now it's basically in the middle again of this consolidation and this contraction. So here I would like to see anything meaningful to the downside, the market to actually take this pin bar, hold below, and that will be a good sign for the further drop, even towards the 38,000 mark. From the other side, if market can regain again above this consolidation and trade above and hold above, then there is a chance for the retest of the highs around 45,900. So far, market is in the middle of the consolidation, and we need to see what kind of structure, what kind of scenario it will develop from here. Speaking of the dollar index, we can see that dollar index rejected of the 102.75 level. This is the exact level that we spoke on our previous update. But here we can see the previous swing highs. It may act like support, and still the dollar index is in an upside cycle relative to the last couple of days. So there is a chance for that this is just a pullback, and that market can regain the power in the next period and eventually attack and break this 102.75 and maybe attack single prints from the background, so the area around 103.30 mark or 103.40 mark. So that's a most likely scenario based on the condition in the background. Now if there is a meaningful sell-off and hold below, then there is a chance for the downside movement towards the 101.35 or even lower. And that will be all for this update, guys. I hope that you did enjoy. Have a good trading day, and speak to you from tomorrow morning.